Thanks, Gregor. Hi, Pierre-Luc. Um, what are the priorities for this team? Things that need to get better for tomorrow's rematch?
Um, I mean, I brushed up on it today and video practice, even during practice. I think we can be sharp. Our compete level. I mean, they're a team that competes extremely hard. Yes, they have talent, but they incorporate their compete level is at a high level. So, um, you're not just facing a talented team. You're facing a team that can play hard too. We have that in us, and the playoffs are coming. You have to. It's not a switch that you can turn on when the playoffs start. It's something that you have to build in your game.
We'll go next to Mike McIntyre from the Winnipeg Free Press. Go ahead, Mike.
Afternoon, Pierre-Luc. Your coach said last night that he thought that was the best game you'd played as a Winnipeg Jet, and certainly it looked like you were really engaged. Maybe not a lot of puck luck around the net, but how did you feel about your performance, and was it your best one so far?
Yeah, I think that what the player I am and what I can do is points are fun, but it's more than that. Obviously you can win games if you win games if you score, but you can also lose games if that's the only thing you think about. I thought last night, I think it might have been my best game in terms of moving my feet, maybe having a bit more of an impact in that sense, every shift and something like that. But yeah, I mean, obviously I also want to score goals. I also want to be on that side of the game too, and that's just one thing that comes from moving your feet. That's one thing that comes from being competing and being there around the net and getting those chances. More often than not, if you're getting scoring chances, you're going to get goals and assists, and you're going to help your team offensively. So for me, I think that's the key. It's not thinking about points and the rest follows. It's thinking about the first step, and then everything else follows.
We'll go next to Kelly Moore from CJOB. Go ahead, Kelly.
Thank you, Gregor. Good afternoon, Pierre-Luc. In terms of your personality, do you find you can be a bit of a more of an effective player with some emotion? And I draw that to, you got involved with Simmons in that scrum after you went hard to the net and stayed around for the rebound. You did take that penalty. But is that what you're looking for more out of yourself now as we ramp up to the playoffs, or do you find that a detriment to how you want to play?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an emotional person on the ice. Definitely, I think it can help. I think when the playoffs come, you have to have some emotion. You have to have some compete, some will in you, and you have to control it. But my dad always said I'd rather hold back a horse than have to push it. So for me, games like that, playoff games, it's not too hard to get me going for those games. It's fun. It comes down to who wants it more. And yeah, I mean, it's just part of my game. I think when my feet are moving and when I'm going to the net, that kind of things, stuff like what happened last night just follows, just because, you to stop me or to stop a guy like that, you have to get physical and you have to get in his face. But it's not necessarily that something that that I need to be doing in the game. I think it's just something that happens naturally.
We'll go next to Jason Bell from the Free Press. Go ahead, Jason.
Good morning, Pierre-Luc. Sorry, no cam this morning. I got issues. It's easy to say limit time and space for guys like Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid, but I guess it's easier said than done. What do you do yourself when those guys are on the ice to try and make sure you're aware and be doing the right things so that, as you suggested, the offense, you move down the ice and the offense can follow?
Yeah, I mean, I always think that when you play against top players, especially top offensive players, that want to play in the offensive in the offensive zone. You have to play smart. You have to always know where they're on the ice. But the best defense is offense. If you have the puck, if you're controlling play, if they're 200 feet from your net, you're doing a good job. And sometimes you think that you might have a play, but when you're against top players, sometimes you have to chip it behind or keep it and protect it. I mean, it's the same thing as playing against a guy who's a big hitter out there. You have to know where he is on the ice at all times. You have to make decisions. You have to sometimes sacrifice the body, and same thing here. Sometimes you have to sacrifice offense. But I think at the end of the day, it's about winning games. And I mean, the guys you just mentioned are big parts of why their teams win games. You know, when they score and when they play well, their teams usually win. So if you can play in the offensive zone, if you can control puck possession, you have a pretty good chance of helping your team out.
We'll go next to Ken Wiebe from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Weber.
Thanks, Gregor. Afternoon, Pierre-Luc. What does it mean for a player's mentality when a coach kind of goes to bat for him publicly, like Paul Maurice did for you earlier this week?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked a bit recently about what I can do, what I have to do better, and I mean, we're on the same page, which is always good. You know, coach and player relationship, to be on the same page. Maybe for me, playing a good game is different than what he thinks, but I think that we're both on the same page of what makes me a good player and what makes me the player I am, and you know, we're going to continue establishing this relationship. But I mean, what he said, what he wanted more out of me, is the same thing I wanted out of myself. So, I mean, it's one step in the right direction, but I know I can still keep improving, and you know, not only for him, but for the entire team. I want to be able to help them every night.
Just a couple more for Pierre-Luc. We'll go next to Paul Edmonds from 680 CJOB. Go ahead, Paul.
Hey, Pierre-Luc, thanks a lot for taking the time. Nick Foligno was the longtime captain in Columbus, and you were a young guy there, probably looked up to him while you started your career with the Blue Jackets. How difficult was it to have to come face-to-face with him last night for his hit on Morrissey?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely felt weird in the warm-up seeing him with the Maple Leafs jersey on. Like you said, when I was my first camp, even when I didn't make the team, he was great for me. And you know, my first years there, he was, you know, whether it's teaching me stuff on the ice or even off the ice, you know, how to behave like a pro, how to act like a pro. And then, you know, last night, I mean, on the ice, you don't really have friends. You don't have guys that everything kind of just becomes another player on the other team. And whether it's him or anybody else, I would have done the same thing. And I mean, he plays hard, he competes, and you know, it's part of his game, you know, being physical and stuff like that.
And final question to Paul Friesen from the Winnipeg Sun. Go ahead, Paul.
Following up a bit on that theme, Pierre-Luc, Joe Thornton was fined for his hit on Matthew Perreault, and there was Galchenyuk's hit on Adam, of course, and even a couple of games ago, Zach Hyman's stick on Neil Pionk. Is there a theme developing there? And is that maybe what you mean by you'd like the Jets to maybe dish more of that out and not just be taking it?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they're a talented team, but you know, they compete hard. They play physical when they have to. You know, you mentioned a few plays. I remember a few other plays in my head. And I mean, they play hard. You know, you can't just go out there and try to play just, you know, as hard as them, because they have talent too. You have to play that talented game also. But we have that. We also have the physical game. That you know, it's a card that you can play. And I always said in the playoffs, I think the teams that win are the teams that don't just have one identity, that can play, you know, multiple kinds of games. When it gets physical, they can play physical. When it gets defensive or offensive, they can play those two also. So for us, I think, I mean, the Leafs have showed, you know, that they're not just a one-dimensional team. We're also, you know, not just a one-dimensional team. So it's a good matchup every night. And I mean, if it gets physical, we can definitely follow that game also.